Welcome to Book Club The Yappening, a podcast where we discuss books and yap about life as we please. We want to make sure this remains a safe space, so please see the description for trigger warnings and helpful links below. A reminder, we will be spoiling this book, so pause, go back to read, and come back to yap. Welcome back to part 2 of Samurai Daddy, who we kind of want to die.
Kinda.
And, Nick, what's your pin for?
Yeah, Nick, what's the pin of the day?
Of the week.
Sango and Kiala from Inuyasha, which is a show about time traveling to the past and present.
Yeah, it's very Inuyasha, very feudal.
Yes.
Just going down the well. There was a well.
There was a well. There was a well.
There was a well.
There was also Neckbeard. Well, actually.
Yeah, that's
Then,
so true. That's so true.
We're beginning this episode's renditions of the side effects of Ativan.
Yes, Nick is going to tell us the side effects of Ativan, but before he does, this is part 2 of Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. If you missed part 1, go watch it, because I'm not recapping anything, because I literally just read it 3 seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick.
Kylie Lee Baker?
Kylie Lee Baker. Did I say Kaylee?
Yes.
Kylie. Kaylee?
Kylie.
Also,
Yes.
spoilers. Yes. Triggers.
Yes.
Check link below. Check things below. Check
Yeah.
things.
Because this shit's dark-sided.
Yep.
Kylie, sorry.
It's Ativan time.
Kylie Lee Baker. All right, go. Tell us, Nick.
Alright. More common. Drowsiness, relaxed, and calm sleepiness, which is fine because he is trying to calm his brain down from being too,
Active with the woo-woo spiritual shit.
yeah, and as ADHDers, we can understand your mind, you just wanted to calm your brain down.
What that is, I don't know.
Aggressive, angry, agitation, attack, assault, or force. I mean, he might have killed his roommate.
Jack the roommate?
James.
So something happened there, and James was super nice. So we don't know why or how or if.
Or even where James is. There's like a thing where he's like, did I do a weekend at Bernie's type of thing? And I just tucked him into bed.
Watch, James is just out of town, and he just comes back like, bro, where are you?
No, really, it's the end of American Psycho. No, I definitely killed that guy. That's not possible. He's been out of town for the past week. Bum bum bum.
Joke is, they're actually... James is from the future, and... Lee is actually the one that's dead in that timeline.
Maybe, yeah.
I
Yeah,
refuse
it's the
to
same.
acknowledge any of the things that you're saying just because
We're right.
maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe some stuff's true, maybe it's not.
Some stuff we don't know about him. Maybe it's mentioned in the book. You cut it out. Bleeding gums, bluish lips or skin. Some people do look gray when they're like looking kind of ghostly and such. Chills, coma, confusion about identity, place, and time. He definitely has some confusion going on. Dark urine. I don't know. You haven't said
That's
anything.
not-
It's not relevant. So
He
It's
could also have a
not.
kidney stone.
decreased urine output. Also, I'm gonna cut with the P jokes.
Also, could be
Discouragement.
kidney
He's
stone.
very like no one likes me. No one wants to hang around me, which could be part of his the mental illness that he may or may not share with his mother. There's a lot of unknowns. Discouragement, but him just being like, meh.
Feelings are valid.
Dizziness, faintness, lightheadedness. He just seems like he's kind of that goes along with confusion and stuff. Dry mouth, false or unusual sense of well-being. That's an interesting way to put that. Feeling sad or empty.
Who doesn't?
Headache, hyperventilation, hives, itching, or rash. Irritability. Actually, I don't know if that applies or not. Loss of memory, loss of interest or pleasure. Not breathing. I'm pretty sure he's breathing.
Sometimes.
Problems with memory. That was not me making a joke. It has both like loss of memory and problems with memory. So that was not me being like, oh, there's memory problems. Also, there's memory problems. Seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not there.
Oh.
That's a side effect of the
James was never there. The coffee was a lie.
No, that's funny that you just said that because there is a scene that I cut out at the beginning of at the very beginning, like right after Homie licks the blood varnish. And you would have to tune into part 1 to understand what I just said. But he goes to make his dad a cup of coffee, and the package has been opened. So Hina has obviously opened the package and made coffee, but there is no smell to the coffee beans. So he's like, this is an anomaly, because if there's no smell to the coffee beans, Hina would have thrown it away. So that you said the coffee's a lie.
Coffee's a lie.
I'm looking. I'm not seeing anything about like loss of sense of smell or anything. It could be. I found another one. What was it?
I'm so trapped by my skirt.
I know you are. You're still like a fish in a net.
I am. I'm trying not to break it because it's tulle.
Trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating, unexplained bleeding or bruising. That's mostly it.
Okay.
Back to timey-wimey.
And that was your medical moment with Nick.
Dr. Medical moment with Nick.
Okay, so we're with Lee here. Lee, Ever the scientist, had snipped a lock of Sen's hair while they were in town. And when the lock of hair was in his hand, detached from her head, it immediately turned to ash, which he thought was strange. So he tucks the ash in his pocket. And then when he gets home, the ash is now a lock of hair again. So he's like, okay, cool. Something's going on with the house. What point will this turn back into ash? So he's just like holding a lock of hair, like wandering the house in the yard.
I think I would too, though, to be honest.
No, for sure. But like, he's like, I hope my dad doesn't like bump into me while I'm just like running around with a handful of hair.
I wonder what happened to him if he went there. Would it just turn into cells?
I don't know.
Like mushy cells?
No. But anyways, so the threshold is like the gate to the house is where it turns back into ash.
So something about the property, which would kind of go along with like a typical like ghost story. You can't like leave that
It's the wall
property.
of Inuyasha, but it's a house.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking this is a wild reference, but the room with Olga Kurylenko and some guy, where like they just make a wish for something and it appears because the house has like some kind of weird mechanism. They like wish for anything they want, but they can't take it off the property, except for the ending, which I'm not going to spoil. It is absolutely insane.
Yes.
We'll talk about that another time.
Okay. So anyways, property line is where the ash hair. Anyways, so he's thinking back. The woman at the archive had read Sen's name off of the passport as Iwasaki Sen. So he's wondering why Sen lied about her name. And basically, like, her family name isn't her family name because she's a samurai, which is why she's Sen of Shimazu rather than Iwasaki Sen. So anyways, armed with her true name now, our guy is able to look up the Iwasaki family and find out what happened to them. He was left with a really strange feeling in his chest. He obviously has known that Sen is not alive and that she is dead, but now he is able to vividly picture her death. And Lee decides that he's not going to share this with Sen, that he doesn't need to tell Sen how they all end up dying. Later that night, Lee gets a text, which is really odd because no one texts or calls him. When he checks his phone, it's the worst thing he has ever seen in his life. It's a text from James asking if he's okay because he hasn't been seen in the last few days. So it's like, hey dude, you good? I haven't seen you in a while. Where are you at? And so Lee is like, the fuck? So he flings his phone into the dark corner of the room and he flees the house. Once he's able to calm himself down, thinking that maybe the text wasn't real, he heads back into his room only to realize that there's now a pool of blood covering his bedroom floor. It is spilling out from beneath the closet door. He is concerned that something has happened to Sen, so he rushes and flings the door open. He's slipping. He slams his chin into the floor. He does manage to open the closet door and he slams into metal plates. The next thing he knows, he's being grabbed by the hair and tossed. There is now a samurai in Lee's room. So basically, Lee enters the room. He's scrambling for the door. He slips, bangs his face off the floor, is able to open the door. And as he's trying to go through, there's a samurai in full armor standing there. So the samurai enters his room. He he, being Lee, rushes, wait, no, I just did that. Anyway, so the man stalks closer to, Lee. He says something to Lee that Lee can't understand. The man was staring into the dark corner of Lee's room, saying, "We live and die alone," before drawing his, sword, removing his chest plate, and opening his own stomach.
Seppuku.
The samurai reaches out towards Lee, and kind of puts his hand on Lee's foot. Lee is able to scramble over into Sen's room, and he slams the closet shut. As he does, a bloody hand slams into the paper of the door from Lee's side of the room. Lee has honestly had it at this point. He's super freaked out, so he takes off running. And he knows that Sen's warning, like, my dad is not gonna think it's cute to have a stranger in the house, so instead of running deeper into the house, he just runs straight out the door and, like, over to the forest. So
he's in the feudal era type time.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, so Lee's running. He's breathing incredibly loud, but he wants to get as far away from the house as possible. He trips over a root, and when he looks up, there's a sword in his face. Lee thinks, like, oh shit, this is how I'm gonna die, and my father's never gonna know what happened to me. And then he wonders if perhaps this is how his mother died. Like, maybe she accidentally stepped into a time period, and that's how we lost her. The blade is then removed from his face. It's Sen, her beautiful eyes and her eyes beautiful and terrifying in the moonlight. Honestly, just love his obsession with her eyeballs. Also eyeballs in general, honestly. Anyways, so
I don't want to know what he wants to do to them.
Right. He's, like, the most in love with her, but, like, in the most, like, curious and fascinating way. Like, he's like, I just want to know everything about you, which is honestly one of the best ways to love and be loved, as far as I'm concerned. So Sen frantically begins looking around the forest, because Lee can hear men's voices. Sen tells him that he can't be here. Her father isn't in a forgiving mood today, and, like, has that man ever. Sen basically takes Lee back to the house, and there's, like, a little section under the porch. And so she shoves him under the porch. And as Lee gets under the porch, the father emerges from the forest with a spy. He brings the spy up onto the porch, and he instructs Sen to take care of him. She draws her blade and in English whispers, "Forgive me." Lee knows that obviously that was meant to him. And Sen does understand English. This isn't, like, a weird plot hole. Just part of being, like, an upper class citizen. She would be, like, highly educated, and learning other languages was part of that education that she got before her father, you know, raised her to be a murder machine. So Lee hears a whir of metal through the air before blood just begins fully pouring down on him. And this book has so much imagery of salt. Basically, people are constantly tasting salt. They're smelling salt. Between, like, tears, the ocean, blood, just salt constantly. So Lee, the blood, like, is getting into his mouth. All he can taste and smell is salt. We are now back over to a little snippet of the legend of Urashima Taro, the fisherman who saved a turtle from part 1. So the fisherman is visited by a turtle again on the beach. He is told that this turtle is the god of the sea. The turtle thanks the fisherman for saving his daughter and invites the fisherman to the palace under the sea. The fisherman goes. He spends 3 days with the princess Otohime, before asking to return home to his elderly mother. So he's, like, down there, he chills for about 3 days, then he's like, okay, my mom, she's elderly, she lives alone, I should probably get back to her. So the princess brings him back up to the beach. She leaves him with a box that has turtle engravings on it, and she tells him under no circumstances is he ever to open this box. Back over to Lee. And then we're kind of gonna get into some of the James stuff here. So James left the balcony door open. Everything could have been avoided had he just closed the door. Lee was sitting on the couch, working on his homework. More specifically, he's battling Shakespeare. He's very, very frustrated because he was told that Shakespeare is, like, because he likes puzzles, he will enjoy Shakespeare, because of the whole decoding it thing, but Lee likes puzzles because they have one answer and Shakespeare doesn't have one answer, and a lot of it is just, like, how you interpret things, so he really is not loving Shakespeare at all. James has left the balcony door open and a breeze blows in and flips some of the pages of Lee's notebook. And our king is like fucking hella overstimulated at this point. He then hears James like fully thumping around in the kitchen. It's also unreasonably warm. So by leaving the door open, the house is getting like super muggy. The air is blowing in, blowing his pages around. It feels like someone's breathing in his face. The air is so warm. And now, like, James is bumping around in the kitchen, and Lee is just like, I'm going to fucking scream. And like, honestly, I would fully throw hands if someone opened a fucking door or window when it's hot and humid outside to, like, fucking heat up. I would, you know how I hate being warm. So, anyways, as Lee gets up close to the door, James pops his head out of the kitchen and asks Lee if he wants some tacos. So Lee like gets up to go close the door. James
That's super nice.
Huh?
That's super nice. Want some tacos? Yes, I would.
So anyways, James is like, hey, want tacos? Lee says no thanks, but can I close the store? And James basically says the apartment smells really, really bad and I would rather you leave it open to get some fresh air. He also makes a comment of like, I know you've gone nose blind because you never leave the apartment, but like it smells awful in here. So Lee leaves the door open, but he is having a really hard time focusing on anything other than the fact that the door is open because, again, his mom was abducted, the door was left open, so he cannot stop fixating on the door, like waiting for someone to walk through the door, basically. So he decides, let's see. Our guy, he takes an Ativan, so stuff cut for time. Oh, yeah, I already did that. Anyways, so Lee takes an Ativan. Lee, sorry. I didn't proofread this clearly. Okay. Lee is staring at the door. He's pissed. He pops in an Ativan. He gathers up his things and he goes over to the stairwell because people don't normally go in the stairwell. The stairwell has no light. It has no outside doors. So he's like, I don't want fresh air. I want cold, sterile light, and I want no fresh air at all. So he goes and he's like, I'm just gonna chill in the fucking stairwell and do some homework. And nobody ever comes out into the stairwell, so like this is honestly perfect. So he's finishing up his homework. As he does, he's like, he finishes, he's standing, he's looking over the railing, like in the stairwell all the way to the bottom, and he's like very much having a call of the void type moment. He's wondering how it would feel to be weightless if he flung himself off the railing. He thinks like people can survive like a fall from whatever like height, but he's 14 stories up, so he thinks that he likely won't survive, but it isn't the like hit he's looking for. Like he's not interested in being smashed on the ground, but he is interested in the like fall itself, basically.
Call of the void.
He did.
Call of the void.
That's what I said.
Did you say that?
Yeah, he's having a moment with the call of the void.
Oh, I
Yeah, no, you're good.
My theory, he's dead. He dead. He's only back at the house because you did.
So anyways, Lee...
Everything that's happened since then is a Jacob's Ladder scenario.
So he's leaning over, as he's leaning over, his bottle of Ativan falls and spills like all over the stairs and the floor. He's really aggravated because he knows he's taken too many, and he's gathering the pills and trying to think, how many did I take this morning? Because I think he popped 2. I think he popped one when the door was initially open, and then he popped a second one before he went into the stairwell. And so now that he's like really shaky and like having a hard time, he's like, I know I definitely took too many, but how many did I take this morning?
Symptoms of overdose: agitation, confusion, excitement, increased sweating, irritability, which a lot of these are also just side effects of normal Ativan use.
Being in the humidity for me, honestly. I'm confused.
Shakiness, unsteady walk, drowsiness, unusual drowsiness, dullness, tiredness, weakness, feelings of sluggishness, unusual excitement, nervousness, restlessness, or irritability. Yes.
blah blah blah, Call of the Void. He's gathering up his Ativan from the floor of the stairwell. James pops his head out of the apartment and asks if Lee's okay. Lee snaps at him to close the door. He's trying to like hide the pill bottle. And James tells Lee like, "Hey, sorry dude, didn't mean to like run you out of the apartment, but your phone keeps ringing. I wasn't sure where you were." And then he like makes a joke of like, it was like you were abducted by aliens or something, and then he kind of like, haha. But this really, really upsets Lee. Because
My grandma was abducted by aliens.
no, but he's basically like, it's not funny people get abducted through open doors. Like it's not funny to like say that type of thing. So Lee kind of is staring at James, then he locks in on a stain that James has on his shirt. He asks James what the stain is from. James looks and goes, "Oh, I don't know. I'm cooking, so probably something from that." And then Lee says, "What is it?" And James is like, "I don't know, maybe it's salsa." And he's like, "You're lying. That's the wrong color for salsa." So Lee needs to know what the stain is. James is obviously rightfully weirded out. He thinks that Lee's just sort of having a weird moment, so he's like, "Sorry, dude, like, I'm gonna leave you be, I promise, like, I didn't mean to come bother you, but, like, can you answer your phone?" Lee then grabs James by the arm. James is like, "Dude, are you good?" And Lee feels like no one can hear or see him, so he very hard yanks James over to the railing. James pushes Lee because he's like, "What the fuck?" Lee then grabs James's shirt and hair and yanks him again. James slips on a pencil and he falls into Lee. Lee then grabs James by the hair again and begins to slam his face into the railing, and Lee couldn't stop until James no longer had a face. Sen's father has Sen dispose of the body of the spy. She tells him to save the head. While Sen is holding the head,
It's good meat.
right. While Sen is holding the head to clean up, she notices that the mouth seems to be moving. It then whispers, "No one leaves this house." Sen keeps on keeping on because she's a warrior, so she can't be taunted by the dead. It buries the body. Sen thinks that the death of the spy is unlikely to save her family again. Whoever sent the spy is going to know that the spy didn't come back. Sen goes back to Lee under the porch. She's worried that he's going to be afraid of her. And she knows that he should be afraid of her, but she is just really frightened as to what he's going to think of her for, like, basically beheading someone. So she gets him out from under the porch and she walks him over to the river to clean himself up because, again, head to toe fully covered in blood. After washing up, he asks her how many people she's killed, and she very defensively says she's only killed to save her family. And he's like, "I wasn't accusing you of anything. I was just thinking that perhaps killing people has something to do with you being a bridge." He then tells her that maybe she's not a bridge at all. Maybe there is no bridge. Maybe it's more of an ocean. That he's on the surface reaching into the water and she's below reaching up for him. And she asks why he would reach for death, and he said that he has also killed somebody. And then she has a very, like, "You, like a person?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like on purpose? And he's like, "Yeah." He's surprised that she doesn't want to know why he killed somebody. And she says that there aren't any reasons, or she tells him reasons are for people who want to forgive themselves. There really isn't a reason that would matter. Like, there's no good reason to kill somebody, and you're only going to make up a reason to make it okay for yourself. So she goes on to tell him that she's sure that the Imperial Army will find her family soon, saying that she's sure that that's how she's going to die, and that they likely have many reasons for wanting to kill her and her family, but it doesn't really matter. And she also says, like, "I'm sure that we die by, like, the army killing us, and I'm sure you know that already." And Lee's eyes kind of dart around, and Sen's face, is darting around Sen's face, like, looking over her face, trying to, like, glean any type of, like, reaction or if she's withholding something. He then seems like he wants to say something. Instead, he asks her if she told her father that they need to leave yet. She tells Lee that her father won't leave, so they're just going to have to die here. He begins to get really upset, asking if her father dictates her fate, telling her that she can still leave, that she isn't chained to this house. She tells him that the only thing worse than dying would be to leave her father to die alone. She tells him that she needs to hold up her end of the bargain still with Lee before she dies, so they head back over to Lee's side of the house, and then they're going to go into the void together again. As they're heading to the closet, Lee spots some of Sen's paintings hanging on her wall. He's very specifically locked in on a painting of a woman's face, wide moon eyes, and a long haunted face. She tells him that she's seen the woman in her dreams, but Lee tells her that is his mother. It's not just his mother, it's exactly how he saw her the last time he saw her. Let's see. So Sen goes on to tell him that when she meditates, her mind goes dark, and Sen sees her standing on the beach with the ocean closing in around her. The same as when they touched in town, basically the same sort of like gray, black and white sea beach type moment. Let's see. She goes on to tell Lee that his mother tries to speak to her sometimes, but she's never able to hear what she's saying. Lee asks Sen to take him to the beach. He believes that his mother can touch Sen because Sen is already dead. Sen's face hardens and she tells him that she isn't dead yet. He shouts that she's been dead for 149 years. He tells Sen that his mother begs him for help every single night and he needs to know what happened to her. They sit in Lee's room and they join hands. Wind begins to blow. The house melts away into ashes. Around them, the world is gray and pulsing. Silhouettes of faceless strangers begin to emerge from the shadows. Then the world began to come into focus. It's the shoreline again, stretching across the horizon. The sky is a bright white. The sand and shells beneath them, like, kind of cutting into their feet and stuff. Then again, a black ocean wave roaring high above them. Sen points behind him. There's a figure on the shore. They walk over. Lee is clutching Sen's hand. As they approach, he starts gripping it more tightly. And he is thinking to himself, like, how is the hand of a ghost so warm? And then as they approach the woman, the sands part. There wasn't a woman standing there at all. It was just a suitcase. The zippers on the suitcase begin jingling, like something's trying to get out. The roar of the rising ocean is now only coming from the suitcase. So instead of the roar being all around them, it's now just coming from the suitcase and everything else is silent. And then all of a sudden Lee opens it and it's empty and all of the roaring stops and it's now just dead silence. Lee tries to apologize to Sen, but he isn't able to talk. Like, he looks to basically say, like, I'm sorry for yelling at you or whatever, but he can't say anything, and when he reaches up, he realizes his face is sliding off and, like, disintegrating into ashes. He looks at Sen, and half of her face is also, like, just fully slid off. He lets go of her hand, and they're back in Lee's room. Sen tells Lee that they can try again tomorrow. As she leaves, she tells Lee that she hopes he can find his mother again the way he has found Sen. Sen hopes his mother is living in a time before she knew pain. Perhaps he will be able to open a door one day and find her in another time. Lee thinks that these are the kindest words anyone has ever said to him. As Sen walks through the door, the thought that she might never open the door again is just fully unbearable to him. He tells her to stay the night, because the only thing worse than the open door his mother vanished through is knowing that one day the closet door will never open again. So, we're getting a flashback here to Cambodia. Lee's a little kid. His mom is outside. She calls him and basically says, like, she needs his help with something, and he goes outside and she has a turtle. She tells him that the turtle is hurt and that the turtle needs help. She asks Lee to hold the turtle still. The turtle has like a section of ribbon hanging from its nose, so his mother gently pulls the ribbon out. It's incredibly long. The turtle's nose is bleeding. The turtle's kind of like shaking and making noises. Lee's trying to hold the turtle still. The ribbon is out. The turtle looks up at Lee with sad eyes as it returns to the sea. Sen's father tells her that they are going to town. He's always told her it's too dangerous for any of them to go into town. He's the only one that's left the house at all. So she is really concerned about like why they're going into town. And as they're going, she's worried that he's like sold her to somebody. And that's where he's taking her. And then they get to the blacksmith and she is like, he married me off to a like old blacksmith. Like she's really upset, but they go inside. The blacksmith pulls out a katana. Her father tells her to test the sword. The katana is immaculately sharp, thinking that it could spear the moon and slice down each individual star. Her father asks if the blade is acceptable. She's like, okay, cool, this was a test. He was trying to see if I could determine, like, a blade that's good, right? So she tells him, yes, it's acceptable. He nods and tells her that it's hers. Sen is confused because, again, he just spent a ton of money buying her a katana and the family is starving.
Priorities where?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, fucking valid. So she's worried that this is another test. She's like, if I accept the katana, is he going to yell at me for being greedy? Because, like, we're struggling for money and I'm accepting this really extravagant gift. So he just pays for it and then turns around and leaves. And so she, like, gathers up the katana and, like, runs after him. And she's like, I don't understand. And he says, well, if a katana is too confusing for you, return it. She asks why he got her the blade, telling him that she doesn't deserve it. He tells her that it's vain to seek praise, and she's like, I'm not seeking praise, I'm just trying to understand. He then tells her that she can only stop Imperial soldiers that will come to them if she has a blade worthy of her skill. And then here's a quote. The sword is the soul of a samurai. My daughter's soul is not cheap, it is not worn, it is not brittle. There is no metal on earth that is pure or strong enough for you, but I hope that this will suffice. He then goes on to tell her that his soul is a disgrace, that he is lost, but that she's ready to be what he couldn't be. Tears are burning in her eyes, and she thanks him, and she thinks to himself that he doesn't know that she's going to fail him, because, like, if they all die, then, like, she failed to protect him and the family. So she's, like, just really upset. Back over to Lee. Lee takes a wander down to the ocean. He notices that twice now, when he's been able to open the door, the sea has been... Wait, hang on. When he's not been able to open the door, the sea is, like, right up to the property line. And twice when he did open the door, the sea was at low tide. So he goes back to his handy-dandy spreadsheet and he checks the time of, like, what low and high tide is, and then he checks it against the time of when he's able to open the door. And it seems like the ocean is holding the door closed. So when the ocean is high tide, door cannot open, but when the ocean retreats, the door is able to open. So he doesn't necessarily know what this means, but it is like a piece to the puzzle. As he's heading back to his room, he stops in the kitchen, and Hina is very aggressively sharpening all of the big kitchen knives, and he's like, aren't they sharp enough? And she's like, oh, they haven't been sharpened in a while. And he's like, okay, weird, but whatever. So he goes into his room. As he closes the door, Sen comes flying out of the closet, telling him that if death is like an ocean, maybe he can reach in and pull her out. She asks if he's able to get her weapons that can help fight the army that comes. Basically, like, can you get me and my family guns? And he's like, no, I don't know how I would do that, but also Japan is not America. Like, I can't just go out and get guns.
Hina just sharpened all the knives.
Right. So she's, like, just really frantic, basically, obviously wanting to save her family. As she's kind of, like, really amped up and talking to him, she stops and her head snaps to the hallway. And then she goes to run for the closet door, but there's shadows shifting on the other side of the closet door. So instead she hones in on his suitcase and runs over. He's trying to stop her, but she jumps in the suitcase and closes it. His bedroom door opens and Hina pops her head in. She has one hand behind her back, and Lee is confused because why would Sen be frightened of Hina? She drew her sword when she heard his father in the hall, but she's hiding from Hina. And we obviously know that Sen is fearless. So he's like, what is happening here? Hina asks if Lee's okay, saying that she thought she had heard something. He tells her that he's fine, and she asks if he's sure because she thought that she heard voices, and she's staring at his suitcase. And he tells her, like, you're good, you don't need to worry. And so she closes the door, but as she's turning around to close the door, he sees a glint. She's holding one of the kitchen knives. And again, the knife is referred to as immaculately sharp. The door closes, Sen pops up out of the suitcase. Lee grabs her by the arm and asks her why she would hide in there, because obviously he's really upset and triggered by her going into the suitcase. And let's see. She tells him that there's something wrong with Hina, saying that the energy is strange. It felt like a forest fire tearing down the hallway when Hina was coming down the hall. So Sen instinctively knew that like that energy was coming for her specifically, which is why she got so freaked out. So he's fully laying into Sen because, again, overstimulated, triggered by the suitcase. She then locks eyes on his chest, and he's like, what are you looking at? And she goes, sorry, you have a stain on your shirt. And obviously our guy is super irrational and handles stains completely normally, so he fully rips the shirt off of his body and is like scrutinizing, like holding it up to his face.
Though, after
like,
the
what
salsa
is happening?
incident.
Right, after the salsa incident.
You
The
got red
salsa
on you.
incident of 2026. What?
Yes. You got red on you.
Exactly. So Lee is looking at it, and Sen goes, it's okay, I don't like stains either. And Lee says they're like ghosts, and she nods and she says they're reminders of the past, scars that mistakes leave behind. So they're like really bonding over their hatred of stains. She tells him that his heart is beating really loudly, and she reaches out to touch his chest, and she says, maybe this is where your mother is. And he holds his breath waiting for her to touch him, but instead of touching him, she plunges her hand into his chest. She's leaning closer and closer to him. Her face is inches away from his, and then he whispers her name before they are both plunged into darkness. We get an alternate version of the salsa incident. Door open, Lee reading on the couch. James standing in the kitchen eating a piece of pizza. James asks Lee if he has any plans over the summer, asking if Lee is thinking about traveling at all. Lee's just kind of like, I don't know, I haven't thought about it. And James says, I'm thinking about going to Asia. Have you ever been to Cambodia? And then, you know, obviously Lee gets really amped up from that. And now we're flipped over to Sen. Sen is back at home. She's in a moment that she distinctly recognizes as her past. Her father tells her to cut some firewood, basically like hurry up, get the shit done. So Sen immediately starts chopping wood. She swings the axe down, but her face is sprayed with blood. Salt hits her tongue. She's confused. She looks down, and her younger brother is laying on the chopping block with the axe lodged in his throat. She steps back and she trips over something and lands in a pool of blood. She looks around, and pieces of her baby brother and mother are scattered fully across the yard, like just gore everywhere. She tells herself to wake up, like she closes her eyes. She's like, this isn't real, I need to wake up. And then a shadow falls over her. She turns, and it's Lee's mother. She is covered in bruises. Blood gushing from her nose, which is very clearly broken. One of her eyes is completely red. There's not a single stitch of white in there. And she leans in and she whispers the truth in Sen's ear. Lee. Sen shoves Lee back. They stare at each other from opposite sides of the room. Both of them are gasping and frantic.
When you said Lee's mother whispers the truth, like she tells the truth or just the words, the truth?
No, she tells Sen what happened to her.
Got it. Okay.
So Sen shoves Lee. They're opposite sides staring at each other. Both of them are like gasping, frantic, because both of them very clearly just had an emotional moment alone. Lee folds over onto himself. He's sure that that was a false memory he just lived, but he needs to know for certain. So he's very much like, will have a memory of something with James, and he sometimes thinks it's false, but he just really wants to grip onto what the truth is, right? He's just like, I'm having these false memories. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. So he tells Sen that he needs to see if that's the truth. And he needs to go back, but she's like, I can't go back there. She says that she saw his mother. Lee asks if his mother said anything to her, and she says, no. Sen asks Lee what he's hoping to find, and Lee tells... Oh, I thought you were raising your hand.
No, just scratching.
Like, what are you hoping to find? And he says, I want to find the truth. And she presses and says, what are you hoping the truth will be? He tells her that he hopes his mother didn't see the man coming, that it was over quickly, and that she was wheeled away in the suitcase and thrown into the ocean, and she never even knew what was happening. Sen asks Lee, what will you do if that isn't the truth? And before Lee can even answer, his father opens the door and says, oh, Hina needed help with dinner, but since Sen's here, I'll go help her. And then he's like, Sen, do you want to come to dinner? And she's like, no, I don't want to be trouble. He's like, no trouble. Hina makes a ton of food. Like, come to dinner. And so she's like, okay. Lee and Sen like have a moment, and Lee's like, you don't have to go, you can just go back through the closet, like you don't have to come have dinner with us. And she's like, well, will Hina be weird in front of your dad? And he's like, no, I'm sure she will not be weird in front of my dad. And she's like, well, then I don't mind like coming and having dinner. And so dinner starts out normal, but then Hina makes a comment saying that she would have made more food, but she didn't know that Lee's girlfriend was going to have 5 times his appetite.
What a bitch.
Lee's dad snaps at Hina and, rude as fucking hell. And Sen very quickly, like, sets down her, like, utensils, and she, like, bows her head and she apologizes. And Lee's dad says, like, no, eat as much as you want. Like, we have plenty of food. You absolutely take what you need. And Hina snarks that it isn't polite to eat like a starving wolf. The wind rattles one of the windows open. Lee gets up and goes and shuts and locks the windows. When he turns around to the table, it's Sen's family sitting there. Her father asks who he is and then swings his blade down. As the blade flashes past the light, Lee sees that it's not Sen's father, it's Hina. Hina has grabbed one of the kitchen knives and lunged for Sen across the dinner table. Sen obviously dodges the blow. Hina lunges for her again. Sen grabs Hina's wrist and twists it behind her back. Lee's father is befuddled because he's like, the fuck? So he screams he grabs Hina. Lee tries to get in between Hina and Sen, partially because, like, obviously what the hell's going on with Hina, but also, like, he's very aware that Sen is a killing machine, so, like, he's like, you messed with the wrong girl. Like, what are you doing? Hina screams at Sen, telling her to go back to where she came from, saying that Sen is going to hurt Lee and ruin everything. Lee's father tells Hina that she needs to go, but she screams, you don't even try to care for Lee, I will. Hina then looks at Lee and says, please, just trust me, please, Lee. And he says, I'm sorry, but you need to leave. So Hina leaves. Sen, we get a flashback to Dad of the Year. As he's leaving for the rebellion, Sen tells him that she's coming with him. So she, like, has her sword and she's following him out down the road. She says, I'm coming with you. He says, I trained you to protect your brothers. You have to stay here. She gets in front of him. So again, Dad of the Year, he pulls his blade out and cuts her stomach, and no, he swings at her. She deflects the blow, but then he elbows her in the face, and then slashes her stomach and leaves her bleeding in the yard. Lee's 12th birthday. His mom has made him a cake. His dad hasn't come home from work yet, and Lee asks if they should wait for Dad before they have cake, but she says, we'll make another cake, this one's special for just the 2 of us. The cake was bitter. Like, he takes a bite, it's really bitter, and he starts, like, kind of moving it around his plate, but then
tastes like almonds.
But then he realizes his mom is staring at him, so he eats and finishes the cake. After cake, he is feeling tired, so he goes upstairs for a nap. He wakes up, his stomach's on fire, he feels like he's been stabbed. He tries to call for his mom, but when he opens his mouth, he just pukes. Lee blacks out. When he wakes up again, his dad is shaking him and shouting. Lee can't hear or understand what his dad's saying to him, and the next time Lee wakes up, he's in a hospital with a needle in his arm. His dad tells him that Lee got a little bit sick, but everything's going to be okay now. Lee asks for his mom. His dad said, Mom got a little sick too, but she'll see you soon. When they get home, he saw that his mother's garden, which had once been filled with really beautiful flowers, is now just a gaping hole of dirt. Our takeaway here is that she poisoned him with something she got out of her garden. So, after dinner, Lee and Sen are sitting on the porch together. He tells her that there isn't much time. They grasp hands, but nothing happens. He starts kind of grabbing all over her frantically until he's like gripping her face. And then he asks how am I going to find the truth? Like, what do we do now? And Sen knows it's because she knows the truth, so there's nothing more for them to learn, and that's why like this isn't working now. But she has decided that her dying gift to Lee would be to keep the secret so he can continue to live in a world where his mother didn't suffer. Lee rests his cheek against hers. He's weeping. He tells Sen that his mother's gone, Hina's gone, and Sen will be gone soon. There is no one left for him, no one who can see him. And if no one can see you, then it's like you don't exist at all. Sen wants to tell Lee that she's going to miss him. She knows that he's been her undoing because she's no longer able to run fearlessly towards death. She didn't want Lee Turner to kiss her or marry her or fall in love with her. She wanted him to sit beside her on the porch and watch the stars with her for as long as she was still alive. She wanted to exist beside him, to be real and whole in someone else's eyes, to bare her soul to someone and not have them run away but stay beside her. Sen asks for some paper. She's going to write Lee a letter. She tells him he's not allowed to read it until after she's gone, like as in dead. Basically, she's like, when you're an old man, I want you to remember me. I don't want you to like convince yourself that this didn't happen or that I'm not real or that this is a dream, and you won't be able to refute that if I write you a letter. So let's see. She writes him the letter. She gives it to him, says, do not open. And she says, if you have the letter, you'll always remember me. And if I'm remembered, I won't really be gone just like the samurai. Because, like, when he was talking about how, like, the samurai are gone, but, like, the whole world knows about them, so it's kind of like they live on. She's like, well, if you remember me, then I'm not really gone. So she says, I'll be back tomorrow. He says, there's no point. You don't have to come back. We can't find my mother anymore. Like, your debt to me is paid. And she thinks that, like, she's, like, kind of shocked by this. Like, obviously, they aren't able to go in the way that they were before, but she's shocked that he's not, like, demanding she figure out a way to, like, she's, like, really surprised that he's just going to let her go this easily kind of thing. He's like, there's no point. You don't have to come back. You don't owe me anything. And she just says, I'll be back tomorrow. So before she goes, Lee asks her if she wants to know how she dies. She tells him she already knows how she dies, but he tells her what if there's a way to prevent it. She is, like, kind of really amped up by this. He's like, you have to leave the house. Tomorrow you need to leave and not come back. She tells him that she can't leave her father to fight alone, and he says, your father won't fight alone. And she realizes, like, she's, like, processing how he worded that, like, your father won't fight alone. Our key takeaway is that her father's not going to be fighting anybody. Lee grabs Sen's face and tells her to leave. She pushes Lee away and asks if there is a way to save her father. Lee tells her that her father can't be saved, but she absolutely does not have to die tomorrow. She tells him that if her father dies, so does she. He tells her that he wants her to live, and she says, you want me to live so you won't be alone, but have you ever thought or cared about what I want? Telling him that she would rather die for her father than live freely. She tells him goodbye. She slams the closet door and pushes her dresser in front of it. In the morning, after Hina left, the sea didn't return, so it's just perpetually low tide. He walked out to sea, like, determined to not come back. Like, he's basically like, this is self-exit. I'm just gonna walk and walk and walk until eventually the ocean takes me. And he walks for what feels like years, until he finally comes up to the house behind the sword ferns. Lee goes to his room. The closet is sealed. He notices that Hina's car is in the driveway, though, so he's searching the house and the yard for her. He finds 2 thin parallel lines in the dirt winding off into the forest. He follows the path through the forest. When he comes to the end of the path, there's like clearly the dirt's been like dug up and messed with here. And then he receives a text. It's from James, and it just says dig. To cope with this, Lee runs all the way back to the yard and yeets his phone into the well. He then goes inside and sits with his father. His father tells him that he received a message from the school, and then he got a call from the police. His father tells Lee that his roommate is dead and that the police want to speak with Lee. Lee asks the perfectly normal question of where did they find the body? And his dad just says, in the well, of course, like Okiku. The porch door then blows open, followed by the rest of the doors in the house blowing open. Lee quickly runs around shutting all the doors because, like, if the doors are closed, then they get to be safe. So, let's see. His father asks Lee what's going on, and Lee says, we're safe now, it's fine. And then Lee sees a stain on his father's shirt, the same shape as the stain on James's shirt. Lee grabs his father's shirt and pulls him closer. Lee is having a full-on episode at this point. He can't stop thinking about stabbing his father. He can't stop wondering where James is. He can't stop thinking about Sen and the fact that she's dying on the other side of the wall. He wanted Sen to cut him down. He grabs a kitchen knife, he holds it high, and then he stabs his own hand, pinning it to the kitchen counter. His father grabs the knife. Lee yanks it free and tries to saw his hand off. His father grabs him and wrestles him to the floor. As Lee's struggling, he sees police cars in the window. Lee fights himself out of his father's grasp. He runs off to his room and locks the door. He flings open the closet, and he is met with a wall of wood. So the door's open, the dresser's back. He pushes his way past the dresser. And, like, mind you, this man is, like, aggressively bleeding because, you know, he has mortal wounds.
He tried to saw his hand off.
Yeah. So, he's starting to feel a little woozy here. He grabs a piece of cloth, to bind his hand up. He falls to the floor. He can hear footsteps approaching. As he's starting to black out, he thinks to himself that Sen is here and she'll help him. He could just stay here and he'll never have to see his father again. Like, I don't have to go back there. I can just be here. And then the door opens and a shadow of a man falls over Lee. Lee only has a moment to process what he's seeing, the glint of metal armor. This isn't Sen. The man screams something in outrage before lunging for Lee. Lee was able to skirt away. He saw the hilt of the man's sword, but he didn't draw it, low ceilings, etc. When the man lunges for Lee again, Lee decides that he's going to dart into the hallway deeper into the house rather than go outside where he'll more easily be able to wield his sword. He slips in blood. He crashes through the door leading out into the porch anyways. He rolls off the porch, managing to miss the first strike of the katana. The man's shadow falls over Lee, and he raises his sword. Sen sat alone in the darkness of her room. It felt as if all of them had died long ago, and this next step was just a formality. Sen turned to see Yuna in the doorway with a cup of tea. Yuna set the tea beside Sen, and she tells Sen that she seems unsettled. Sen tells Yuna that she needs to pack her things and leave, telling Yuna that she needs to take all of the other servants with her, and Yuna's basically, your family hasn't been dishonored and you don't need to die here with us. Yuna asks if she's done something wrong before telling Sen that she can't leave. Yuna grabs Sen's wrist and tells her everything will be fine if she Yuna grabs Sen's wrist and says everything will be fine as long as I'm by your side. Sen tries to pull away, but Yuna doesn't let go. Sen then just slaps her across the face, because at some point Yuna also refers to her as Sen, and she's like, excuse you, like, you don't call me by my name. So she like bitch slaps Yuna, and basically says, get out of my house now. The end came an hour later. Sen was prowling the yard when she began to hear shouting from the house. She takes off towards the house, determined to meet her own death standing sword in hand. She wasn't going to die hiding. As she rounds the house, sword in hand, she sees her father. He's raising his blade, and there's a man with no armor laying beneath him. Sen meets the man's green eyes, and she shouts for her father to stop. It's like very much giving Pocahontas. She tells her father that this isn't an enemy, that he's helped her. This made things significantly worse because her father is like, you let a foreigner into my house? And it was at this point that she knew she fucked up. Her father demanded to know why she would do that, knowing everything that has been lost to the foreigners. He then, and obviously we know that from a little history lesson. Anyways, so let's see. He tells her that she brought this curse upon them and she was going to be the one to undo it. He sheathes his blade and steps back. She bows and she tries to explain, but he cuts her off. He grabs her hair, telling her that if she didn't do this, then he would. And if he had to do it, then she was going to die for her defiance. He then throws her to the ground. Digging her nails into the dirt, she demanded to know what she had done that was so wrong, asking where in the Hagukure did it say that you're not allowed to have friends. She tries to rise, but her father pushes her back down, telling her that he raised her to be a samurai despite all of her flaws. He tells her that he thought she wanted to be a warrior rather than to bend over for men. He draws his sword and places it below her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. She's sobbing. She knows that he despises this, but he despises every true part of her. Her father only loved the lies she gives. He tells her that he doesn't want to kill her because then there would be one less person to defend her brothers. He asks why she should get to have friends when all of his friends have died. He tells her that this will be the last time he asks her to kill the man. Lee shouldn't have come. Sen knows this. Sen and her father's soul are one, and she would follow him into hell. She stands over Lee. She now understood why she haunted this house, not because she failed her family, but because she betrayed her only friend. Lee is limp in the dirt, and he tells her it's okay. He reaches for her, telling her that he understands. And when she dies, he wants her to remember that he forgives her. He was setting her free by this. Basically, now all she needs to do is stay and fight with her father so she could die with honor. If she dies with honor, though, she would never meet Lee Turner or follow him into the future world or fall with him into the dark sea. She would die beside her father, and then she would get to rest. She was the sea in all its secrets. She was child reborn in salt and sand. She was a warrior fighting for nothing at all. She quietly says thank you, Lee, before turning and bowing to her father. She sets the katana on the ground, raising to her feet to meet her father's eyes, telling him that she refuses. Her father stares at the sword that he had given her when he believed that she was strong, that it represented her soul. But her soul was not her father's to give. He asked if she was choosing a foreigner over her own father. She smiled. He had trained her to die on the battlefield, and she was ready. She tells him calmly that she chooses herself, and that he isn't her father. My father died in the rebellion. He died the moment you came home instead of spilling your blood with honor. He died when you punished me and my mother for not following the rules that you yourself have violated. My father is gone, and the creature that crawled home in his place is a coward. Her father draws his katana and steps forward. Sen closes her eyes. She could hear Lee moving behind her, but he couldn't help her now. Her father raises his sword high above her head. She thinks, okay, he's going to cut me in half. Basically, right down the middle. Let's see. He tells her that he regrets many things in life, but his greatest regret was not doing this sooner. And then a gunshot rings out across the yard, and her mother screams. Her father immediately takes off into the house. Sen helps Lee back to his feet. She tells him that she is going to help him, but then she needs to go help her family. Lee tells her that he can't go back. She says, if you stay here, you're going to die. And he's like, well, if I go there, I'm going to die anyways. Tears make tracks down the blood on his face. He tells her that she'll die if she stays here too. Basically, like, I'll die if I stay here. I can't go back. You're gonna die if you stay here. Like, well, what does any of this matter? Sen tells him that this is where she's supposed to die. She wouldn't have met Lee if she hadn't. He's fully leaning into her now because she's like helping him to the into the closet. His legs are weak and trembling. Sen's mother screams again. She apologizes as she sets Lee on the floor. And then she moves the dresser aside. She opens the door and she shoves Lee through, and he falls to the ground on the other side of the closet. She closes the door again, and then she tells herself that she'll meet him again. The way back to Lee is through death, and with that, she swipes the tears away from her face, and she draws her sword, and she rushes back out into the yard. Her father's at the gate, slicing down soldiers. Her mother's being forced into the dirt, and her hands are being tied. Her baby brother is sitting in the middle of the yard screaming, and so she rushes for her baby brother. She's wondering where the hell her younger brother is, but as she's tearing towards the baby, gunshots tear out in the yard. Sen's baby brother goes silent. Also, the description of this is fucking gruesome as hell, which I left out for obvious reasons, but baby goes silent. As the baby goes silent, her younger brother jumps down from a tree and he's screaming and starts running towards the baby. And like, also, bro, you hid in the tree and you couldn't take the fucking baby with you? Like, really? You fucking swaddle that boy to your... Just leave the baby in the middle of the yard. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, so younger brother's running towards the baby. Another shot rings out and he falls. Sen stumbles back. She hopes that this is another one of her horrible nightmares. Only an hour ago, she hadn't feared death, but now she can imagine her flesh unwrapping from the force of a bullet. Footsteps round the house, and Sen throws herself beneath the porch, thinking to herself that this is why she became a ghost, because she trained her whole life to be a hero, and in the end, she died a coward just like her father. She is curled up in a ball. She's crying. She's hugging onto her sword. Perhaps she was already dead, and this was her hell, just watching her family die around her again and again. And then something deep below the earth begins to claw its way up. Lee scrambles out the back door, falling into the dirt. He drags himself beneath the porch, thinking here on the same day as Sen in another world. He prayed that blood loss would take him. A cold hand slammed over his mouth. His body felt very far away. The hand smelled of rot and flesh. The flesh was spongy and moist against his lips. Lee gags, but the hand only presses harder into his mouth. Another hand forces him over onto his back, and he sees his mother. Jagged lines are sliced over her face. Her curly hair is matted together with blood. There was so much he wanted to say to her, but he could no longer feel his lips. She whispers, "Dig," and then her hands pull back and she's gone. With footsteps thundering above him, Lee sinks his hands into the dirt. It parts, soft and cool on his skin. He digs faster and faster. Soon the hole will swallow him. He scooped up a handful of cool water. A world away, Sen heard something scratching beneath her. Warmth began to bloom in the dirt. The soil began to soften, hugging her. She should have been scared, but everything beyond the porch felt so far away from her. She only felt this way when she was with Lee. She pressed her palm into the dirt, grabbing handfuls of it. Soon water was rising around her, holding her in the arms of the sea. Lee and Sen are floating in brine, the real world somewhere above them. Two small jeweled boxes with turtle carvings float to them at once. They open the boxes. The Legend of Urashima Taro. He returned home with his gift, but the world had changed in his absence. Buildings were taller and made of strange materials that glinted in the sun. Roads were black and firm, with machines rushing by. Something was very wrong. He walked slowly up the beach, the box clutched in his hand, and he walked home. But his home no longer existed. Something new had been built in its place. He asked someone what year it was. He had not been gone 3 days. He had been gone 300 years. His mother had died alone. He opened the box, and the time he had borrowed while at the Emperor's palace burst out. Centuries devouring him, his flesh dissolved, and he collapsed into a pile of ash blowing away into the wind. Lee was in the kitchen, staring at the stain on the wall. He scraped some of it off with his nail and tasted it. Later, he takes a nap, and he goes for a walk. As he opened the yard gate, he heard a woman call his name, and he turns, but no one is there. It was as if the burst... I don't know what the fuck. Just, I don't know what that means. Anyways, it was like the burst had come from the sea, but the sea had retreated. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, it was like 6 a.m. when I wrote this. Sorry, guys. As he steps through the gate, a burst of pain erupts in his skull. His hand is still on the gate. It cramps up. Bells are ringing in his head. He couldn't hear his heartbeat. He couldn't hear the heartbeat of the earth. The flowers beyond the gate began to shift, hydrangeas to clovers to dandelions to dead weeds, then only dirt. A wave of vertigo washes over him. He bites into his lip and draws blood. His mother whispered, "Let me out, Lee." He felt like he had been cleaved in half. A man, a murderer, and a stain. Lee was 12, sitting in a hotel room in Cambodia, staring at a stain by the door. His mother had gone for a walk and had not come back. His father was calling her. His father had told him and his mother that this trip would fix everything, but Lee always knew when people lied. His mother liked playing games with Lee too, a little too much. His father didn't like that. Whenever his mother wanted to play, she would give Lee a bitter glass of warm milk and he'd wake up under a different sky. One of the times, his mother had veered off the road and crashed into a ditch. After that, his father found them within an hour. His father never yelled. She was the kind of woman you married, and you wouldn't yell at that. She was beautiful even if she cried all night long. When his mother went for a walk on the beach, Lee had a dream. First, the porch door closed as something thumped on the ground. "Of course you don't care," his mother said. "You never even try to care for him. You don't even look out for him. I will." His father called her insane, telling her that she was lucky he hadn't put her in a padded cell already. Something thumped against the glass. He dreamt his father had taken out the trash. The air stung with cleaning chemicals. He cracked his eyes open and saw the suitcase on the porch. He heard the scratching coming from inside. His father wheeled it away. His mother asked him to let her out, but it was only a dream. Lee fell back asleep. When Lee woke, he stared at the bloodstain on the porch. It hadn't been there that morning. It was a dark, narrow line, as if red wine had spilled. Lee no longer had a mother, but he had a father, and for a while that was enough, until one day the balcony door was left open. Lee was in the stairwell, and his roommate asked Lee if he was okay. His roommate blinked hazel eyes at him. "James, what is the stain from?" Lee asked, and his roommate laughed and said, "Dude, it's been 2 weeks and you already forgot my name." His name was Matt. His eyes were a deep, dark brown. "Let me out, Lee," the suitcase had said. Please, Jim," his mother had said. "Okay, please, Jim," his mother had said. She screamed his name, Jim, echoing over the sea, again and again, growing quieter, and then there was nothing at all. Lee felt like he was crumbling to ash. Lee rushed past Matt and began throwing everything into a suitcase. He would ask his father if it was a dream. He needed to look his father in the eyes because he knew if his father lied. His hands were trembling. He spilled his Ativan across his desk. He had taken too many today, but his mind was a raging fire. He swallowed 3 pills and laid down. This was Matt's fault. Lee wanted to make him pay. The pain in Lee's head faded as he closed the gate to the yard and he returned to the kitchen. His father looked at him as if Lee were the strange one. Of course, Lee was the strange one, suppressing himself with sedatives, but now he remembered hearing his mother sob in the hall, asking to go away for a while, warning that there was something wrong with her. His father had sighed, telling her that there's nothing wrong and she didn't need help, she just needed to exercise and go to bed earlier. His father told her to stop being strange in front of Lee. Lee deserved a normal mom. James Turner deserved a normal wife. His father set his coffee down on the counter. He called to Lee, reaching out to grasp Lee's shoulder. Lee grabbed his shirt. His father hadn't even tried to defend himself as Lee smashed his face into the counter. Lee smashed his father's face into the counter again and again. Lee couldn't even make out the facial features. The face could have belonged to anyone. Was this how his father had killed his mother? He had never wanted Lee, but he didn't want her to have Lee. He didn't want to be someone who had a crazy wife. Lee wasn't a man or a murderer. He was a wild animal. You will never be normal again, Lee thought as he bit his father's ear off. His father grabbed a knife and slid it into Lee's stomach. Lee wasn't a person. He was darkness. He no longer felt pain or tasted blood or heard his father breathing. Lee pushed his father and grabbed the knife as it clattered to the floor. Trembling, Lee plunged it into his father's heart. It was harder than Lee expected. His father was real. His father stopped fighting, and Lee couldn't stay upright. He collapsed into a cabinet, smashing his head on the handle. His body was made of static. This was a dream, Lee thought, but he knew dreams could still be dangerous. Lee would wake up any moment. The sword fern shifted beyond the window, revealing the well. Lee grabbed his father by the ankles and dragged him. Only after Lee fit his father into the well did Lee begin to feel the pain. He needed to call someone. His phone was in his room, but Lee only made it as far as the closet before collapsing. His blood seeping through the floorboards, dripping onto a small box with turtle carvings. Sen was standing over her younger brother with a sword to his throat. She tells him that if he wants to get up, he must force her to retreat. He's frightened. He's not sure that she won't actually kill him. Good, Sen thinks. You should be afraid. Sen hears something shifting in the woods. She turns towards the sound, giving her brother the opportunity to hook his ankle around hers and knocking her down. She thumps down onto her back, the air knocking out of her. Her brother hurries off towards the house. From behind, Sen hears someone say, "My lady." She gets a chill up her back, and she turns her neck. As she turns around. They have no servants, and they haven't for a long time. She turned to find that no one was there. She heads towards the house. As one foot is planted on the porch, the world splits as bright pain sears through her entire body. She had been stabbed before, but this was far worse than any pain she had ever felt. She fell to her knees, but all at once it stopped. Her father had asked her to bring back firewood. So her dad's there, he says, "Bring back firewood." But when she returns to the house, the clearing was too silent. She couldn't hear her brothers running or yelling. Terror took over her, and she rushed to the house. She threw the door open, and she tripped into the hallway. It was dark, her hands splashing in something hot and dark on the floor. The soldiers had come. She had been too late, she thinks to herself. She goes to the kitchen, throwing open the cupboards, hoping that she can find her brothers hiding in there. She searches room by room. She reaches her own room, and she hesitates before opening the door. There was a stain, the echo of blood splatter seeping through the opposite side of the door. She could hear breathing on the other side. She opens the door. The room is dim with shadow. The sword ferns were blocking out the sun. The tatami mats on the floor were too dark. The room smelled sharp with blood. Sen's eyes adjusted to the dark. She let out a sigh of relief. Her mother and her brothers were asleep on her futon. Her father was sitting in the corner of the room with his katana in his lap. He had protected them. She steps forward, wanting to embrace her father. But the tatami mats rippled under her feet. A pool of blood had stretched every corner of the room. She looked at her father. He was breathing, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. She asked what had happened. Had the soldiers come? She drops to her knees in front of the futon. She shakes her baby brother, but he's limp. She pulls back the blanket and her family was sleeping under. They were not sleeping. Their heads were no longer connected to their bodies. She turns to her father. He would not meet her gaze. Disgraced samurai would sometimes end their family lines rather than have them live without honor. Sen thought her father had returned from the rebellion with a plan for redemption, but she was wrong. It's kinder than what the soldiers would have done to them, her father tells her. She lets out a sharp laugh. She can't stop laughing. "This is kindness to you?" she asks. "I should have ended things the day we lost the rebellion. I have been living in shame ever since," he tells her. "And then why did you come back? Why did you bother training me?" She sobs. She's fighting back nausea. "Because I need your help," her father tells her, reaching for his blade. He draws the double-edged dagger. He looks at Sen as if he were truly seeing her for the first time. She backs up to the door. He intended to die with honor. He had been trained to assist, or she had been, He had been training her to assist with the ritual to behead him. You don't need me for this. You could have finished it on the battlefield, she says through clenched teeth. Her father asks if that's what she wants for him, to slowly bleed out and die in pain. It hits Sen. Her father's afraid to die, and she laughs. So part of the ritual that she's going to be helping him with...
Seppuku.
Yeah, but it's important that you don't fully behead the samurai, that you, like, leave basically nearly headlessnick type moment of, like, you leave a section of skin still connected. So behead them, but not, like, completely behead them. Hang on. Okay. She thought the creature that had returned home had eaten her father's soul, but he was just a man who could no longer pretend to be a hero. She refuses. To her horror, her father closes his eyes and bows to her, pressing his forehead to the pool of blood at her feet. Please, I want to die knowing the last samurai...
Kowtow.
Please, I want to die knowing the last samurai of Satsuma lives on without the shame of her father. She tells him not to ask her to do this, but he tells her this is the last thing he will ever ask of her. He tells her to think of it before sinking the dagger into his own belly. He falls forward, sliding, and slides to Sen's feet. Please, he gasps as he's clutching at her feet. She couldn't stand the thought of the man who had taught her to be strong above all else dying at her feet, begging. He made her think she was special being born to a samurai, but at the end he was only a coward. Sen picked up her sword and stood behind her father. Please, Sen, he groaned. Can you do nothing right? One simple cut is all I have ever asked of you, and you can't even do that much for me. She brings the blade down and hears his head hit the floor. Sen cries, falling to the floor. It felt as if the house were collapsing on her. She had failed. She struck out of anger rather than strength. She could have her own life. She could get married and have children and raise them to be samurai. She picked up the dagger and imagined another life. I won't do it. This is what I think of your last request, she said before slicing open her belly. Her blood spilled on the floorboards and into the earth beneath the house. Sen fell back against the closet door. It slid open. On the other side was a man covered in blood, paler than snow. His lips were blue. He panted for breath. He looked at her with eyes the color of the forest. She felt as if she had seen him before, maybe in a life she might have had. She thought of the story her mother used to tell them about the fisherman who rode a turtle to the bottom of the sea. He lived on borrowed time from a goddess. Sen felt like Urashima Taro, life washing over her like the pull of a tide, dragging her toward an ending. The man beside her coughed. She placed her cold hand in his. I remember you, he said, closing his eyes as his chest went still. She remembered the feeling of her hand in his. Maybe somewhere, somehow, she had opened a different door. She closed her eyes. The last thing she felt before her world turned to ash was his hand in hers. Otohime. In a palace beneath the sea, there was a princess, a window, and a dream. For 4 years, 4 years after Urashima Taro had left her, the princess sat alone. The man she had cared for was naught but ashes. Her endless life was pale. She watched days pass on earth. One day, a woman gave her an offering. A mother had placed her daughter in the sea and prayed for her son. She swam up to meet the mother and accepted the girl. She tasted the girl's loneliness. I don't know what's happening. Anyways, the girl shared her gray heart. She promised to watch the girl from afar, to protect her from her palace in the sea. She breathed life back into the child and returned her to her bed. The girl grew tall and fierce and beautiful, but the princess knew the princess could no longer bear how lonely the girl was. So she came to the girl and her family as a servant, and she loved her quietly in small moments. She could see all of the threads of time, the child's life coming to an end as her father slayed her before he left for battle. So she built a new palace. Somewhere between earth and the sea, she hid She hid the home behind the sword ferns. When the end came, she told the mother of this home. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to say. Anyways, when Sen's father was leaving for war, when he slashed her stomach open, he left her to die on the road. And so her lady maid basically went and found the girl and picked her up and brought her home, and she told her mother about the like sword fern house. So basically, she brought the girl home. Her brother found her. They nursed her back to health. The family moved to the sword fern house. For a long time, the girl wished for a father who loved her, a dream that hadn't been extinguished, a purpose. The girl couldn't yearn for a home if she was already there. Somewhere among the sparks of time, the princess met a boy. He had been lost at sea, choking on a rope that had washed she had been lost at sea, choking on a rope that had washed ashore. A woman brought her home and cared for her. The woman's son with dark eyes, the same as the girl's. She swore to thank the mother by protecting her boy, but death came quickly for him. One day, the boy would take too many pills and he would fall and shatter in a stairwell. Before that day could come, she went to the boy's father and whispered to him, "Go to the house behind the sword ferns." She led the boy to the same home and gave him what his heart had been afraid to ask for: a devoted father who loved his wife until the end, a safe place to weather the rest of the world, a family that was kind, whole, and safe. She had come to him, cooked for him, told him stories, brought him sparkling sea glass and sharp shells. She trapped the boy in her palace away from the truth he could not bear. Every morning and night, when the tide retreated, the walls of time and memory grew thin, years bleeding together, and the children found each other across time. She tried to keep her palace from crumbling, to keep the two worlds separate, to protect the children from their fates. She did everything possible to make them choose her, but when they found each other, they no longer wanted her. Humans sought out love from other humans, and they left her alone at the bottom of the sea. They had never belonged to her. Their lives poured through her fingers like ash, and when it was over, they were both gone. She sat alone in her palace. She didn't know if she would ever find love of humans, that humans held for each other, but she would continue searching until the end of time. The end.
So they both dead.
Yeah.
Cute.
Nick just blankly staring at me.
That was a lot. That was like a Sarah J. Maas like last 100 pages wrap up.
Yeah. Nick, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
I think all my questions are going to need to be saved for a part 3.
What?
Okay, so like, what was real at the end?
So,
Well, yeah.
Hina and Yuna were the like sea princess basically. So she had concocted like a little bubble universe. And when she met Sen, she knew that Sen was going to die by her father's blade. So she basically told Sen's mom, like, there's a safe house you can take your children and you'll be safe there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she brought Sen so that she wouldn't die alone on the road. And then they went to basically the bubble universe.
And basically, Yuna's like, if you stay with me, you won't.
Yes.
Yeah, and then same thing with the boy.
Yes. And then same thing with Lee. She met Lee as a turtle. He was a little boy. She saw how like lonely he was, and she wanted to protect him as well as like a thank you for him saving her. But Lee's true path was to take too many Ativan and fall down a stairwell and die. So in order to protect him, she came as Hina and convinced his father to move to Japan, and so she lured Lee to like come and join them in the like bubble universe.
And so Lee killed his father, correct?
Yes.
After he found out
That
that
was
he
like
killed his mom.
They basically ended up getting new endings because once the like palace crumbled, they were both meant to die. So they ended up getting a new ending basically for themselves where Sen obviously killed herself and Lee
They're able to move on essentially.
Yeah,
Once they
basically.
die, they're able to
Mhm.
complete their life in a different way.
Yeah, so basically again like the fishermen, their time was saved for them in the box, and when they opened the box, basically they ended up having an ending.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was the boxes were under the house that they like dug for.
Yeah.
Here's to hoping they get reincarnated into a new life together at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. It's really
Psychological thriller.
Yeah.
What happened to Sen's sister?
Kura?
She
Yeah.
died really
She
early.
starved.
Yeah. she
Her
starved to death.
father intentionally starved her to death so that the rest of the family could have more food.
Mm.
I remember not like getting upset that Sen was feeding her, but then she's not mentioned again except for when she was buried in a box.
Yeah, there is more to that tale, and it's really sad, and I didn't want to include it. So,
That's fair.
Oh.
the long and short of it is that she was intentionally starved to death.
My whole like takeaway from the seppuku thing with her father was her father raising, because like what the rebellion happened, so he said his friends didn't survive. So because I know in seppuku when you do it, and I could be wrong, it's been a while since I've actually like read the history about it, but it's the most honorable way for you to die is to obviously gut yourself, but then your most trusted commander or your commander is the one that beheads you, and that's honorable. So my takeaway was he was raising his daughter the entire time to do it, making her honorable enough to sever his head so he can die with honor.
Correct.
So
And his intention was also for her to go on and have a life. He's like, if I'm gone, you don't have to live with the dishonor of me being here. I can die with honor, and you can go on and you can live your own life. Like, you can get married, you can have kids. And she was so fucking mad that he did that to her that she's like, fuck you. I'm not going to do that.
Which boss ass bitch.
Nick.
I want to say I said Harajuku in the first part of this, and I definitely meant seppuku. I was just being.
I was wondering if you said Harajuku and you meant seppuku, and I'm like,
I
what
was
happened?
I was being silly. I know I can be super dry, but I just want to say that like I know what I said.
Okay.
I said what I said.
Yeah.
I committed Harajuku.
And then I have Sen's letter to Lee if you want. All right, so the last letter of...
Oh yeah, the letter.
The last
You
letter...
have to know the letter. Everybody has to know the letter.
Yes. I was like, should I summarize? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to read the whole thing. So the last letter of Iwasaki-sen. Lee Turner, you are the strongest person I've ever met. Take this as a compliment. There are enough boring people in this world. Oh wait, hang on. Strangest. You are the strangest person I've ever met. Or if you would like to be offended, that's fine as well, because then you will remember me as the girl who offended you, and I don't mind that as long as I am remembered. My father always said that samurai do not fear death. That is how I know at last I have become a samurai, because now when I think of my life and my time here, I don't see it as a fixed beginning and ending on a flat plane. Maybe for us, time curves back around, and its beginning meets its end. And we'll meet again one day in a closet where I will almost cut you down with my katana. Or maybe time is like a train that reaches its destination and then turns back around and heads home. And we get to try again once more. All I know is that I've never feared death. I have feared an ending. And now, because of you, I know that nothing ever truly ends. Normally, a father's property would go to his eldest son, but soon my father will have no sons, and they will have no children after they die. All my father's possessions belong to me, but I have no sons either. So instead, I leave everything to you. Everything is not much in this case. I leave you with the week we've spent together, good or bad, however you saw it, it's now yours, so please keep it safe. And more importantly, I leave you this house. I write this to you in 1877, a year when you are not yet born. I do not understand how the strange door of ours works, but I know that somehow you have found me, and somehow, inevitably, this will find you. One day, you will be born somewhere far away from me. When you grow up, please come to Japan, to this house behind the sword ferns, and find me. I want to meet you again. Iwasaki-sen, The Last Samurai.
It's cute. It's good.
Yeah. So good.
I feel like I'd be devastated at the end of them just sopping my eyes out. Ugh.
I feel like Nick is broken.
Help!
He's
Yeah,
like
it's so
trying
much-
to
yeah.
unpack everything.
So much
It's
happened.
a
in, like,
lot
the last
to unpack,
10
and I know
minutes.
it's because obviously the shortening the amount of like time and
Yes.
script. And basically, like our podcast always is, if you want more, read the book.
Oh yeah, and there's so much more.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Everything we do, there's so much more. You just gotta read the book.
yeah, absolutely. And these are like 2 appropriately lengthed episodes.
Okay, we are so spark noted.
Although we could have probably done it in one, and it wouldn't have been too horrifically long. I don't think.
No, we're almost on 3.5.
Oh well, so
So
whatever.
normal episode.
Yeah.
Episode,
A normal Brittney episode.
Yes, but also I feel like you guys were captivated.
We
or
were.
Whatever.
Like I said,
just
every
like
time I
silence.
say-
Yeah, we didn't
every
talk for like a half hour.
I know.
Yeah, I'm like every time you just do a book, I'm like, I can't stop.
I know. Sorry, guys.
And I was sleepy the first episode, but then I woke the fuck up, and I'm like,
You were set.
where is this gonna go? So James was not mad. James was dad. He killed dad.
Mm-hmm. Dad killed mom. Mom repeatedly tried to kill Lee.
Why did the cops come? Because his roommate clearly didn't die.
I mean, that was like kind of a false memory
Okay.
of the like police coming.
Oh, I was gonna say, at the end, I thought that Sam was like, "Well, I can't stay here," and Lee was like, "Well, I can go back to my own time," and they just like kind of swap Prince and the Pauper style. Like, obviously, that would not have fixed anything, because had the police actually been there, they would have been like, "Okay, who are you? Why are you dressed like you're from 1877?" If I had to make an estimate,
Mm-hmm.
and then soldiers come and, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Gentle Sir, who looks like he's from the future and is bleeding me out.
Yeah, he's just now goddess's story,
Yes.
princess's story
Mm-hmm.
of the sea,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
of a sea tortellini.
Yes. It's so sad. She was like so lonely, and then she found 2 lonely, sad children, and she's like, I can protect you. And then they found each other, and they didn't want her anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
To be fair, Hina did some fucked up shit. Hina
Yeah,
tried to
Hina
kill
definitely.
Sen. Come
It was
on.
because she was just like, God damn it, you guys can't be, because she was trying, she's like, this place is gonna crumble, and both of you are going to die. I cannot have you guys near each other.
Yeah, because obviously it's timey-wimey, like
Mhm.
anomaly. They're breaking the sands of
Yes.
time
Yes.
by being together.
Yes.
At
So that
least-
was kind of what it was like,
Can
please.
you imagine? I imagine it almost like an hourglass, like shape 2 worlds
Mhm.
upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because
it'd
it's
be a
like,
cool movie.
if you're here, then Lee is going to end up having to die, and I don't want either of you to die, but at least I could protect Lee at this point. But yeah. Unfortunate. But yeah. All right, Nick, you got anything else for us?
You could send us out with that Lonely Road song too.
so Matt is like, he was just a roommate who he happened to be Lee's roommate when Lee would have died.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
No, I
when
think-
when you said Jim, I'm like, it's James. He
Yeah.
killed his dad. He killed his dad. Rightfully so, because his dad killed his mom.
Yes.
Because for me, I'm like, yeah, mom might have been like psych ward, but I feel like she's so abused that she was trying to self-exit herself and her son.
Well,
That's where my brain was going with it. I'm like, okay, so she's done with the abuse, so she's taking him out too.
right. She also repeatedly asked for help, but he's like, you don't need help. You're fine. Stop being weird. Just stop being weird around Lee. Like, be normal. And she's like, there's something wrong with me. Like, yes, she repeatedly tried to kill Lee, but she also repeatedly tried to get help so that it wouldn't come to that. And she was told to just be normal. So, because he didn't want to have a crazy wife or a crazy life.
Crazy wife, crazy life.
Okay.
Do you want to send me like, more questions? You sending this out?
I don't know, I was trying to find another song that I know of, but I don't know any other Japanese songs as well as, like, turning Japanese. I'm not saying that's like a good or appropriate song.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
All right.
Lonely road that I have ever known. I don't know the song lyrics. It's in my it's in my head. But I don't know lyrics. I don't know who it's by. But it's all I can think of right now. Is I Walk a Lonely Road.
Green Day.
The only road would ever know.
Green Day.
That's a perfect one. They're both lonely.
There you
All
go.
three of them are
Nick,
lonely.
Sing Green Day.
Mama, ooh, I didn't mean to make
Bite
you.
my lip and close my eyes. Send me away to paradise.
Bye.
Bye.